Hi, I'm Laura with MadamSew and welcome to my quilting corner. Today I'm going to show you how to make a canning jar block and a project that goes along with it. I believe this is a wonderful block to make this time of year. It's the end of harvest time and we're all starting to cozy up for winter. There are a lot of food fabrics you could use for this. There are fruits or vegetables. You could do candy or peppermints or anything like that. But it's not limited to food jars. If you'd like to do something else, I've seen people do bug jars where they'll do a fabric that has butterflies or fireflies or even spiders I've seen. Or you could do decor in your home. I've seen people do jars like this that have Christmas lights or ornaments or cotton balls or toothpicks. The options really are endless for whatever you want to create. One thing I will note right now is that for my project today, I have created it so that when it's all put together, it will look like it's on a shelf. But if you want your block to be more like a floating jar, if you're putting multiple together and you just want them to be floating, you don't need to include that line. I have made a whole quilt before with these blocks where they do not have the shelf unit, so they just look like jars that are floating, and they look nice that way as well. One of the tools we're going to use today are these heat erasable fabric marking pens. I got these at MadamSew.com and they are fantastic. They come in red, blue, black, and white. And the heat erasable is really fun because you can mark your fabric where you want to sew, and then as soon as you press it or put some steam on it, the line goes away and it will be gone. So they are wonderful to use for marking your fabric if you'd like to check those out. Okay, so I hope we have some fun today. Let's get started. When you are constructing the large canning jar block, you will need one piece that is 5.5 by 8 inches of your food fabric. You will need one piece for the lid fabric that is 2 inches by 3.5 inches. Then for the background fabric for this block, you will need 2 pieces that are 1.5 by 7 inches, 2 pieces that are 1 inch by 8 inch, 4 1.5 inch squares, and you will need 2 that are 2 inches by 2.5 inches. If you are going to construct the small canning jar, you will need one piece of patterned fabric that is 5.5 inches square. You will need 2 pieces that are 1 inch by 5.5 inches. You will only need one piece that is 1.5 by 7. And then you will need one piece that is 4 inches by 7 inches of the background fabric. Let's start with the large canning jar. First, we're going to make the body unit, and then we'll make the lid unit to attach. The first thing we're going to do is take the squares, your 1.5 inch squares, and we'll put them right sides together in the corners of the jar block. And we are going to mark a diagonal line on each one. I recently got these heat erasable fabric marking pens at MadamSew. These are awesome. They come in a little package like this. There's red, blue, black, and white. And what's really neat is you can mark right on the fabric, and then when you press it, it disappears. It's heat erasable. So these are really neat markers to use, or they're kind of a pen. So you're gonna just take your ruler and mark right in the diagonal of the corner. And you can see my line there. You're gonna do that with all 4. Now these pens are neat because once we press them, they erase with the heat, so you'll see that. So we're gonna go to the sewing machine now and sew on those lines. Okay, now to cut these corners, we are going to cut 1/4 of an inch away from where we just sewed the line. So we'll take 1/4 of an inch off, whatever ruler you're using. Okay, so now we're going to press this, and I'll show you how those lines are going to disappear in the heat. And then we're going to press them to set the seam, and then we're going to press these open, which is towards the light side, which I know is rare, but that's going to help us later when we attach the lid at the top. All right, and then when we press this, look at how that goes away. We're just going to press it to set the seam, and then we'll press it open. So your block will look like this. And then we're going to attach our 1 inch by 8 inch pieces to create the sides of the body. So we're just going to lay those right sides together and sew a 1/4 inch down the side on both sides. Now this one we're going to press to the fabric. Now we have our sides on, and you're going to want to press this to the dark side. As you see, we went this side here. Now if you're opting to make it look like it's on a shelf, like I am for this project, you can add the shelf unit here with your 1.5 by 7 inch strip. I've chosen this kind of fun teal and gold color. You can do anything really. You can do a brown, you can do one that looks like wood. There's just tons of options out there. So you can do that now. If you'd like to add your bottom strip, you can as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach these two together first, and then I'll attach this to the bottom of the jar. And you just put them right sides together and sew a 1/4 inch. And this one we will also press to the dark side. Then we will attach this to the bottom of the jar body. So let's do that now. We'll attach this and do that 1/4 inch seam again. And this one again, you will press to the dark side of that shelf. So now we have the jar body unit done with the shelf, and you're going to press both of these to the dark side so that both of these edges are in. And don't worry about this extra on the side here, we'll trim that up later. So you're going to set this aside, and we're going to make the lid unit. Okay, so the lid unit is really simple to make. All we're going to do is take our lid fabric, which is 2 inches by 3.5 inches, and our 2 background pieces that are 2 inches by 2.5 inches. Now I want to make a note here with your lid fabric. If you have something that's directional like this, you want to make sure that you cut it this way so that it looks like a lid, if that's what you're intending to do. If you were to cut it this way, it wouldn't look as much like a lid. I chose this fabric because it kind of looks like those silver lids that you put on canning jars. So this is a really simple unit. All we're going to do is attach each of these to the sides here. So we're just going to do right sides together and sew a 1/4 inch seam here. And then we'll do right sides together here and a 1/4 inch seam here. And then you're going to press this towards the dark fabric, towards the lid fabric. So let's go do that now. Okay, then when you press this, you're going to press it to the dark side, towards the lid fabric. So now you have your unit for the lid. We're going to attach this to the top of the jar body. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky, just because you want to line up these corners really well. This is why you've pressed this one towards the dark, and you pressed these ones to the light. So they should nest a little bit. There will be a little bit of overlap. As you can see, they're going to nest right here. They should nest right on top of each other, or right next to each other, so that you get a nice seam and a good corner when you sew that 1/4 inch line. So if you'd like to put a pin in there where it nests, just to keep it in place, that's a good idea to do, because it's the most important part to make sure that those attach nicely, and then you can worry about the edges later because we'll cut that out. We'll trim it. So that's nesting there and that's nesting there. And then we are going to sew a 1/4 inch here, and then we'll have our lid once it's folded up. So now you have your corners lined up, and we're going to press that. And we're going to press this towards the lid. And you can see where the corners line up there with that lid. If they are a little bit off on one side, that's okay. If you are a perfectionist and want to change it, you can rip it out and try it again if you'd like. I have done this before where I've had to do it 3 times before it matches up perfectly. But once you get it once, you kind of get the hang of where it should lay, and those corners will come together really nicely. Now the only thing left to do for this block before we square it up is to add that top piece, which is your 1.5 by 7 inch piece for the top. And again, you're just going to lay that over right sides together and sew that 1/4 inch seam. Okay. And I'm going to press that towards the top as well. And here you have your finished canning jar block. Mine's going to have the shelf look on it. So you can make as many of these as you'd like if you're making a whole full-size quilt or a wall hanging. The block here will measure about 6.5 inches by about 12.5 inches. If you'd like it to be more, you can do wider on the sides. There are different options that you can do. So now we can square that up and we'll be all finished with our large canning jar block. If you are constructing the smaller jar body block, the only difference you're going to see is that this is going to be your 1 inch by 5.5 inch piece on either side here. And then you're going to add your 4 inch by 7 inch piece to the top. The lid unit will be exactly the same, and the shelving and background unit at the bottom will be exactly the same. So the only difference are the size here, and the top piece will be a little bit larger to make it that 12.5 inches tall. So that when you sew them together in a row, they will all match up and be the same size. So let's do that. This little sprinkle fabric is so cute. So we're going to press that to the dark side, just like we did on the other one. Okay, and then we're going to attach this lid unit again, and we are going to see where those nest perfectly together. And we will pin that so that it stays right in place. Lines up just right. It's really helpful to get those pins in there when they're nesting. And then you have a little jar of sprinkles. Who wouldn't want that? It's so cute. All right, so then we're just going to attach our top unit, your 4 inch by 7 inch piece. We're just going to do right sides together, and again, that 1/4 inch seam that we quilters love. And it's ready to square up. And so there you have your last little block. So this is the order I have chosen. I'm going to use these 5 blocks here, and I'm going to create a wall hanging. So the thing that I want to point out right now is that if you're creating a wall hanging like this or a table runner, this is going to be a really long line. So in order for it not to create a curve when you're sewing, you want to make sure that you go in opposite directions when you're sewing these lines here. So when I sew these 2 together, I'll go this way. When I sew the next one, it'll go this way, so that you don't get a shape or an arc in your project. So this should be pretty simple. We're just going to take each block and we will sew them right sides together. Sometimes you can use sashing in a project. If you are creating them to look like they're floating, you can do sashing if you'd like, extra space in between. But I'm not going to add any sashing here because I want to create that shelf effect. So let's start. All we're going to do is put these blocks together, right sides together, and sew that 1/4 inch seam. So when you're pressing these blocks, once they're sewn together, you can press them open. And I just want to take a minute to talk about this wool pressing mat. If you don't have one, I really recommend getting one. They are fantastic. I got this one at MadamSew.com and it's the perfect size. It's 13.5 by 17 inches, which means it's so nice to have right here next to my sewing station, but it's also really easy to travel with if I want to take it with me to a sew day or something too. So I just love those wool pressing mats. Check it out. Okay, now I have everything pieced together. I quilted it and I've got that binding on there, and here's how my wall hanging turned out. I just did a simple diagonal quilting job here, something really simple and easy for this. And I had one more thought I wanted to share with you about making a table runner. If you were to do a table runner, here's an extra idea for you. I thought with the multiple jars, it might be kind of fun if you did every other one upside down, so that it works for both sides of the table. If you want to do this, I would probably not include the shelving piece here, but it might be kind of fun to have the jars every other way if you're going to be placing it on a table. So that was just one thought that came to me while I was quilting my little wall hanging here. So I hope you've had a lot of fun today. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have any questions, please include those down in the comments, and definitely check out Madam Sew on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Until next time, happy stitching!